We are 12a, and we left off with a question. So we'll just review the question while everyone's getting their stuff ready. So the question was like this. The Gemara said that if someone sends a messenger, Rav Dimi asked Rav Nachman, if you send a messenger to slaughter something, and then you go and you find that it's slaughtered, then it's good. If you sent the messenger to go take off truma, and then you went and you found that some produce was gone, you cannot assume that truma was taken off. So the question was, what's the difference? If there's an assumption, a chazaka, that a shaliach does his job, so then even by truma. If there's an assumption that a shaliach doesn't do his job, then why is the shechita good? That was the question that we left off with. So we're saying now, we're in the middle of olam. Sticky notes. Every night go into your bed and put down your sticky notes. My contribution to the world.
I have said.
I know, I'm kidding.
I know.
This is hard. It's right in the middle of 12a. On of Shach. Right here. Oh, it's the other way. It goes this way. La'olam. This word, la'olam. La'olam, really. Ein chazaka shaliach also shikul. So interesting. You cannot assume the messenger does his job. So if that's true, why is the shechita good? So the shechita inami dam inashakrini shama the azal shachat. You told your messenger, go slaughter for me. Someone else heard that you want slaughtering done. So the third guy, so we have Reuven, tells Shimon to go slaughter. Levi overhears that Reuben wants slaughtering done. So Levi runs and slaughters. So now, and you find the animal slaughtered, that's fine. Why? Because we learned the principle that Rov Mitsuyin Eitz Shchita Mumchanein. Most people that are going to slaughter know what they're doing. However, Truma, Dilma Inashachrini Shama, maybe Levi overheard that you told Shimon you want your field to be Truma taken off of it, and he went and took off Truma. So maybe what's wrong with that? Says Gemara, no. Dilma Inashachrini Shama v'azal tarim havelei torim shalomi das. That's Truma being taken off without your knowledge, without the owner's knowledge. V'hatorim shalomi das ain't Truma so Truma. One who takes off Truma without the knowledge, the knowledge of the owner, it's not considered good. Now, Rashi points out, because there's a pasuk that we learn that you could be a messenger for Truma, and it says, Gamatem, even you, L'rabos, to include the messenger. And the Gemara has an exposition from there, just like you take off with knowledge when you're doing it, so your shaliach has to have that same qualification. So somebody else who takes it off for you without you knowing about it is not going to be valid truma. So by shchita we say that it's good, even if it's not your consent. And by truma, we say it's not good. This is interesting. This idea that sounds like we hold like this. Ein chazaka, that there's no assumption that a shaliach does his shlichus. So we have a whole section of when you rely on messengers. Someone could go marry someone off for you. Someone could divorce someone for you. We have. But it's just interesting. When do you say you rely on him? You can trust him that he did his job, and when can you say not that way? I don't know. Okay, so yeah. Now, this idea that most people hanging out slaughtering animals are experts, the Gemara wants to suggest maybe that itself is a debate, and then it rejects it. So, Lema, I'm shaking table. Okay, Lema.
When do you?
That's fine with me. So, lema, take whatever I can get. So, lema rov mitzuyin etzel shchita mumchenein. So we're bringing in 4 bachrim from Lakewood, so maybe they'll come. Well, I just doubled the size. Well, so lema rov mitzuyin etzel shchita mumchenein. Maybe this idea that most people that slaughtering are experts, that itself is a debate among the Tanaihi, as it says in the Brisa. Now, this is interesting. The Tanya Haresha Abdullah Gidia V'Tarnagolov. You lost your goat and you lost your chicken, and then you went and you found them. They're slaughtered. The halach, and you never said your last goodbyes. The halach umatzan shchutin, and you went and you found them slaughtered. Rabbi Yehuda Oser, Rabbi Yehuda prohibited. No, you can't eat them. You cannot eat them because we're going to say in a second, we don't assume that people hanging out slaughtering are necessarily experts. Therefore, there's no you can't assume that he did a good job. Rabbi Chanina ben Osher Rabbi Yotzich Glivi Matir. No, he allows. You can assume people are shechting, know what they're talking about, and know what they're doing, and you can trust it. So now Rebbe, so it's interesting. Rebbe is going to split. Meaning we have these 2 opinions, and they're going to be 2 extremes. So Rabbi Yehuda is going to prohibit in every case. Rabbi Chanina is going to allow it in every case. Rebbe is the 3rd opinion here. He's going to split. So he says, Rabbi Nirin, it seems to me, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda Shemasan Ba'ashpa, meaning I'm going to agree with Rabbi Yehuda when an animal was found in the dump, in the garbage. The Divrei Rabbi Chanina, the one who allows it, I'll agree with him when the animal is found in a house. So, but Rabbi Yossi is going to prohibit it, even in a house, if you find in a house. And Rabbi Chanina is going to allow it, seemingly, even if you find it in the garbage, not in a house. But Rebbe himself splits. So says the Gemara, "My love, Hakamiflagi is not that this isn't this what they're arguing about? This is their debate. Can you assume that people that check know what they're talking about?" So he says most people, yeah, and you can rely on it. And he says not. Maybe it's not enough of a majority. You have to know exactly why would you say not. If just is it a majority or not? But either it's not enough of a majority, or there's too many doubts that could come up. So that itself will be 2 opinions. Says the Gemara, no. Omer of Nachem Bar Yitzchak Lo, the Kuli Amar Robatzin Shchita Mumchen. No, we go with that. Rov Mitzuyin Shchita are Mumchen. They are experts, and therefore you could rely on them. So now we have to understand what are these 2 opinions arguing about. So it says the Gemara like this: Ubebayis the Kuli Alma Lo Pligi. So if you find, so basically you find the animal in the garbage in the house. So the Kuli Alma Lo Pligi Deshari, it's permitted. Meaning even though it was found in the ashpa, so you come home and you see that the animal is infected, but it's in your garbage at home, that's going to be kosher. Okay, we'll explain in a second. Why would you think not that way? And if you find it, the ashpa shibashuk, the garbage in the marketplace, you're going and in the shuk in Israel, and by their garbage you see a bunch of animals. There, it's prohibited. Everyone agrees it's prohibited. That's not the debate. Ki pligi, where's the debate? The ashpa shebabais. So sorry. If you find it just in the house, for sure it's okay. If you find it in the garbage in the marketplace, for sure it's no good. The debate is the garbage in the house. Ki pligi ba'ashpa ba'ais. Now here's the logic. Mar savar adam asur lahatla nevelos ba'ashpa shebabais. Umar savar ein adam asur lahatla nevelos ba'ashpa ba'ais. So it sounds like these animals that are not checked properly, they really smell. Yeah. So the question is, how much do you keep them around? So normally you wouldn't keep them around in the house. So if they're still in the house, it must be they're good, even if they're in the garbage in the house, because they're still valid. Normally, if it's not a good animal and it's smelling up your house, you would take it out. So anytime you find it in the house, even if it's in the garbage in the house, you can assume it's a good shechita. On the other hand, if it really was a good shechita, why would it be in the garbage in your house? So this is a gray area. That gray area is what these two opinions are arguing about. Now, that Rebbe, he split. Amar Rebbe, near and div Rebbe Huda who prohibits shematzon ba'ashpa. Well, one second. Rabbi Huda who said, I prohibit it when you find it in the garbage. What's he talking about? My ashpa, which garbage? Ilema ashpa shebeshuk in the marketplace. You just told me everyone agrees it's prohibited. Hamers the kuliyama lo pligi daser. So when did Rabbi Huda say it's prohibited? Ela lapshi the bashas revice. It must be the garbage in the house, and that's where it's prohibited. Well, 1 second. Him a seifa. Look at the next line. If you find it in the house, it's permitted. What's that talking about? My advice. In the house, on the table, on the counter, or in the garbage. Ilim a bias mamish in the house, not in the garbage. He just told me everyone agrees that that's permitted. So that can't be his opinion. So when he says in the house, elapshita, the ashpa shebebayis, it must be that it's in the garbage in the house. So Rebbe was trying to get a middle ground, but it comes out, according to what we just said, that we don't need Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda only said his statement in the garbage in the house, and Rabbi Chanina only said his statement in the garbage in the house. But Rebbe, we don't need Rebbe. So kasha Rebbe ad Rebbe. It sounds like you were splitting it and finding a middle ground. But the way it was just explained, there's no room for you to really say your opinion, because Rabbi Yehuda said it's prohibited in the garbage. So where is that? It can't be in the marketplace. It's for sure prohibited. So it must be the garbage in the house. Rabbi Chanina said it's permitted. Well, in the house. Where in the house? On the counter. Everyone holds it's permitted. Must be in the garbage. So what is Rebbe saying? No, it seems to me that he's over here and he's over here. There's no middle ground. That's the only option for the debate. So that's a kasha de Rebbe ad Rebbe. So next page. So no, haki kamer. This is what it means. Nirin divrei Rebbe Yehuda. This that Rebbe said. It seems to me. So it's not so much his middle ground opinion, rather Nira and Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Chanina beno Rabbi Yossi Aglili, the Ashpa Shebashuk. That which Rabbi Yehuda said was prohibited. It seems to me that even Rabbi Chanina beno Rabbi Yossi Aglili will agree to that. Sha'af Rabbi Chanina beno Rabbi Yossi Aglili lo nechlak alav ela ba'ash shebayis. So in general, when you have two extreme opinions, one says permitted and one says prohibited, and then Rebbe comes along and says the words nirin, it seems to me, so it means he's breaking them down. He's taking a middle ground. So originally thought that if Rabbi Yehuda said it's prohibited everywhere, in the house and in the marketplace. If Rabbi Chanina said it's permitted, we assume permitted everywhere, even in the marketplace. Then the Gemara ended up saying, but that's not true, because everyone agrees by the extremes. Everyone agrees the garbage in the marketplace is prohibited. Everyone agrees the house not in the garbage is permitted. So all you're left with is a debate, two opinions, a garbage in the house, permitted or prohibited. So now those words that Rebbe says, nirin, it seems to me, where he's taking from one and from the other, a middle ground, there's no room for the middle ground anymore. The Gemara says, you're right. Even though those words, nirin, are often, taking a middle ground, in this case, it's just saying one point. It's just saying that Rabbi Yehuda, who prohibits, even Rabbi Chanina will agree to that. Rabbi Yehuda says it's prohibited across the board, even a garbage in the marketplace. That garbage in the marketplace, even Rabbi Chanina will agree to. That's all it's saying. So it seems to me that Rabbi Yehuda's opinion of it'll be prohibited in the marketplace in the garbage, even Rabbi Chanina will agree to. That which he said prohibited in the garbage in the house, that Rabbi Chanina will disagree to. So that's all Rebbe's saying. He's just pointing out that point. Okay. Now, next part of the Mishnah. The resolution is two opinions. You want to know how we hold? You want to know how we hold? Maybe we should do every week, 5 minutes on the practical halacha that comes out of the daf, just to make Jules happy. It's worth it. No, it's worth it. So it sounds like. It sounds like the little letters over here, assuming that they're correct. So that in the house, permitted, garbage in the marketplace, prohibited. and garbage in the house would also be permitted. And nobody asked me, we're missing one case. No garbage in the marketplace.
Oh.
Yeah, so Tosfos points that out. And he says, yeah, they agree about that too. And that's, I don't know, looking at Elam Metzias and Bav Metzia. But he points out there's a fourth case that we didn't mention. We mentioned garbage marketplace. We mentioned house, garbage in house, but garbage, no garbage in marketplace. That's yeah. So he said they're also going to argue in that case. So, and there you'd have a similar logic. On the one hand, a dead animal just in the marketplace, I guess you would say as if it was a nevela, it would be in the garbage. The fact that it's not in the garbage, so then it should be permitted. On the other hand, I'm not sure what the other hand would be. I don't know. What would be
marketplace might also depend where you find it.
Right, where you find it. Yeah, where in the marketplace, not in the garbage, but where did you find it?
Yeah.
Being sold at the counter.
Is it outside the butcher?
Right.
Is it outside the baker? Or is it between four butchers?
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a case where someone found a baby goat shechted between Tiberia and Tzipori. You find it between two places. It's not in the garbage, just around.
It's on the road.
Right. On the one hand, if it will only left there if it's not good. On the other hand, you put in the garbage. Okay, I don't know. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, good thing you're not a shochet, Jules, right? So would you want to be a shochet? No. You sure? Okay. So it's never too late to start. So then you wouldn't be a doctor either.
I don't know.
No. No.
Keep away from that. One slip.
Yeah, I don't have those. So it says in the Mishnah that Cherish showed to Bekatan, the group of three that are usually lacking in a certain level of intelligence, the deaf, mute, the deranged, and the katan. You don't give it to them because Shema Yikalkul Shchitasan. So says the Gemara, Shema Kilkul Lokatani. It's not that they messed up, it's that they will mess up. Why is that language? Ella Shema Yikalkulu. Amarav is also marriage. This teaches you Ein Mosen Lan Chulin Lichatchila. Meaning, even if someone is you don't ideally give them even if someone's watching them, you don't ideally give them an animal to slaughter. Even if someone's watching them, because they might mess up. Okay. However, it's obvious. I'll have my blind person check. Yeah.
There's so much other obvious.
That's interesting. We don't assume a blind person is lacking in intelligence.
No, it's a question.
Maybe you can feel where
It's not a question of intelligence. It's a question.
That's interesting. Halakha of a blind person.
Yeah.
I still remember. It brought me to tears. There was a blind boy in the mirror. He came, and, definitely special. On some level, and his great grandfather learned in Shanghai. So like all the Rashivas knew him, and they gave him so much honor. He was obviously he was much shorter than everybody else. So he would spend 15 minutes in the middle of davening, walking to find the tzedakah box to put money in. And he had a good voice. He would dive in different places even when he was blind. He was sitting one time Erev Shabbos learning when someone else was blind. The halachas of blind people.
Oh my God.
The halachas, the whole sefer on it. It was amazing to see that.
Is that safer in Braille?
Yeah.
It is in
Yeah.
Wow.
The siddur was in Braille. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So, okay, so you should not give to the fine. So, Montana, so, and all these people, not the Cher Shoto Katan, but all those different opinions that we had of who it's coming to include, whether we have 5 opinions, whether it's a Tame person or whether it's maybe the Kuti or whether it's, so if you do watch them, so then it's fine. No, it's talking about this. The Cher Shota B'Katan. So Meaning, ideally, you shouldn't give it to them. If you gave it to them and someone was watching them and they checked it, it's fine. Got it. So let's say a minor, you shouldn't give it to him ideally. But if he ended up checking it and someone was there watching him, then it's fine. Montana, so according to this, who's the opinion that says that you don't need intent for shchita, because we assume that the katan, the minor, doesn't have a level of intent that we need. Amarava Rabbi Nassan, this opinion of Rabbi Nassan, he holds that you don't need a level of intent for shchita. The Tani Oshia Zeira Demin Chavaraya, that the Oshia taught Zeira, either it means Zeira was the smallest of his friends, or it means it was Zeira was from the place called Chavaraya. Chavaraya, like friends. So either I think Rashi says it was the youngest from his group. So he said like this: Zarak Sakin. This is a good aim for this. You throw a knife against the wall for whatever reason. You're doing that. Lo and behold, it beautifully slaughtered an animal along the way. The halcha v'shakta kedarka. Rabbi Nassan machshir. Rabbi Nassan, it's permitted. You had no intention that it should check the animal, but he says you see from that you don't need intent. The chacham and postlin, they argue you do need intent. So who tani lava, who amar la halach Rabbi Nassan, halachas like Rabbi Nassan, like our Mishnah. Just you can throw a knife against the wall and it checks the animal and it's good. If a youngster checks the animal and someone's watching him, ends up being good, it's good because you don't need intent. Says the Mar and Molachu maybe. But there's another halacha, you have to have a back and forth motion when you slaughter. So throwing a knife against the wall is only a one motion, not a back and forth motion. It's only forth, not back. So v'habayin and Molachu maybe. So we say shahalcha uba'a darka. So that's how you learn this. But Rashi says, also very interesting, it hit the wall and came back, bounced back perfectly, and then it did yeah. So that's that. Some say that you only need the back and forth motion if it's a smaller knife. But if it's a very large knife, a longer knife, then you only need a fourth motion, not a back and forth motion. Okay, now that we talked about this, we're going to talk about the rest of the time, basically, about a katan. So now, a katan, we're going to have three things. Machshava, thought, in this case means verbalization, the way Rashi understands it. Let's say a katan verbalizes his intent. Does that count as intent? Then the katan does something that shows us his intent. And then, is the act enough? And then, there's going to be a third case where he doesn't act and he verbalizes it. So all those three levels, what about a minor? Do any of those count for him or not? So Amar B'chia Rabba by Rabbi Yochanan, Katan Yeshlo Makshava, O Ein Lo Makshava. A minor, does he have intent or not? So in this case, Rashi learns it means he verbalizes. So what's the case? For example, Rashi says that you have to check the animal for the sake of that animal. So a minor says, I'm slaughtering the ola for the sake of the ola, but you're a minor. Does that level of intent, is that enough for us or not? He verbalized it. Now, this is a very interesting question. Tosfos asks an interesting question. We know from Zvachim, the first daf, if you have no intent, it's like yes intent. Stam, no intent, is good intent. The Gemara concludes two opinions. So if you don't verbalize it, we assume you meant it for an ola, right? So now, a katan, he should be no worse than that. How come no intent by a grown-up is good intent, but yet a katan verbalizes it, and we think it's a bad shchita? That's their question. What's our Gemara? So the answer is very different. No intent by a grown-up, you can assume it meant good intent. By a katan, there's another factor over here. And the factor is that a katan's worse because maybe he doesn't have intent to understand that what he's doing is involved with a holy sacrifice. He doesn't have that. So and maybe he really thinks that it's something that's mundane, and therefore it's not really counting. As was a grown up, he knows he's involved in something holy. The question is, does he have active intent or even regular intent? We assume that he means for that. That's the okay. So. Right, truly, yeah, truly, yeah. So how many jokes do we make right now? Okay. So the question was, does his intent work or not? Why don't you ask about an action? Why are you only asking by intent? What if he does something to show us his intent? So the fact that you didn't ask that sounds like it's obvious to you that a Maisa would be good. So Ma'ishna Maisa D'Lokam B'Bayle. Why did you not ask about an action? It must be because you know the following Mishnah. Titnan, Yesh Lahem Maisa, Yesh Lahem Maisa. Because the Mishnah said that actions count for the minor. We'll see in a second. Well, if that's true, so Machshava Nami Lo Tibayle. If it's because of the upcoming Mishnah that you did not ask about action, because it was obvious what the answer is, well, guess what? In this following Mishnah, it also answers your question about his if he verbalizes his intent. So why did you only ask by verbalization and not by action? If it's based off the following Mishnah, you have both answers. What's the following Mishnah? It's not Ha'alon Ba'rimon Ba'egos, Shechakakum Tinokos. So you have these different fruits. Let's say a melon that you emptied out, the fruit, and now all you have is the shell. So now, Limud Behen Afar, Oshe Hiskinum Lekaf Ma'oznayim. So let's say you're now using it as a scale. So the miner took an object, emptied out the fruit, and now is using it as a scale. Does that now make this something which is susceptible to impurity? He now made it into a vessel. Can a miner make something into a vessel? He didn't just verbalize, rather he actually did something. He emptied. So does that count? So we say Tnein, yes, it does. Why? Because he did something. We see his intent. It's a much higher level of intent when you act upon it and you verbalize it. People like to talk a lot. When you do it, it's a whole different. So you did it. You made it into a kli. Now the next page it says the ein lahen machshava. Okay, but they don't have their verbalization is not going to be valid. So if he finds this shell, let's say I emptied it out for whatever reason I did, and then the miner finds it and says, I want to use this as a scale. That the Mishnah said doesn't work. Verbalization alone by a miner not enough. He has to do an action. If he does an action, then that'll work. So 1 second. So you asked a question about verbalization. You didn't ask about action. Why not? Because you knew of this Mishnah. But in this Mishnah, it also tells you action's good and verbalization is not good. So what was your question about verbalization? It's explicit. It's an explicit Mishnah. He says, no, I was never asking about regular verbalization. That I have this Mishnah that I knew already. When it's machshavaso nikeres mitoch maisav. So it's when we see your thought from your action. So for example, when kigon dahave kaima ola b'darim, you have the ola in the south, and we know that it has to be slaughtered in the north. And the miner goes and brings the animal from the south to the north. But he didn't say, I'm slaughtering it for the north. But we see from his actions, he took it to the north. So obviously he wants to slaughter it in the north. So that is much stronger. We see by the case of the scale, we don't necessarily see it. But here we see it. Do we say the fact that he brought it to the north and he slaughtered it, obviously he had intent that it should be slaughtered, for an ola. Or maybe he just didn't have enough room in the south. We got a little squishy over there, so he brought it to the north. So we said one thing. That also we have the answer. Rabbi Yochanan already told us at the time of the following Mishnah, you take out your fruits. You want to get rid of the bugs. So you take out your fruits onto the roof. Now, how do fruits become impure? They have to have one of the liquids. One of the liquids includes dew, rain, could be a liquid. So if it goes on it, it has to, then it's susceptible to becoming impure. However, you have to have intent for it. If it happens to get rained on, but you didn't have intention for that, that doesn't count. You have to have intention. So they brought it out on the roof so that the bugs will go away. They don't want it to get wet. So and now rain fell on it, or dew fell on it. Einon b'chiyuton. That's not in the verse of b'chiyuton when it's placed on it, when the liquid is placed on it to be susceptible for impurity. However, the im niskavin lekach, but if you had intention for that, harei hein v'chi yutan. So that, but if you had intention for it and then dew fell on it, so that's for sure fine. However, helum cherishot v'katan, if one of the people that doesn't have the requisite amount of knowledge, of maturity of knowledge, brings up, afal pishin iskavnu lekach, even if they had intention for it. So even if they had intention for it, einan b'chiyutan, that's not considered something which is susceptible to impurity. That's not included in the verse of b'chiyutan. They didn't act, but they didn't verbalize what their intent was. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo shana ella shlo hipech bahen, aval hipech bahen harei zeh b'chiyutan. This is only true when they that if they had intent, it doesn't count. Is only when they didn't flip over the fruit after it rained on it, to want to rain on the other side. But if they went and they flipped over their fruit after it got dew on one side, why'd they flip it over? Clearly, they want that the other side gets dew on it as well, in order that it's something which is now that they have that, it'll be susceptible for impurity. Yeah. So in that case, then that counts. I'm just wondering, why would you want something to be susceptible to impurity? Like, why would you like? It's not that it's impure; it's susceptible to impurity. So if I touch a corpse and I touch the fruit, it's not going to become impure unless it's wet. I guess the side that's dry has to be wet. If it's not wet, I mean, if it got wet but then it dried, presumably need both sides. Yeah. No, maybe the answer is no. Maybe the answer is like this. You don't want them to be susceptible to impurity. That's not the point. You want them to get wet. Because they get wet, it cleans it off. It gets wet, it's better. You want it wet. If you want it wet, now it's susceptible to impurity. So let's say you want to wash it off. It's dirty. So you turn it over to wash it off. Once you have intent that it should get wet, so then it's susceptible to impurity. But you're right. I don't think anybody intends to now it should be susceptible to impurity. The point is, if you want it to get wet, now that it's wet, it's susceptible to impurity. You go wash the lettuce. Obviously, you're washing off to check for bugs or whatever, and now it's wet. It's going to be in a state of susceptible to impurity. Mm-hmm.
When he turns it over,
Mm-hmm.
he wants it wet.
Mm-hmm.
He wants it subject to tumor.
Right.
He wants it wet.
Right. He wants it wet. Yeah. Yeah. So Rabbi Yochanan already told us this. So hachi kami ba'ilei, the araisa or derbanan. The original question does their actions have validity was really a question of biblically or rabbinically. So meaning, can you rely on them for biblical things? Like if he brought the Ola from the north to the south, that'll have a ramification on a biblical level. Or do you say no, that'll only have a ramification on a rabbinical level, and there'll be a stringency. So when we see their intent from their actions, does that have validity on a biblical level or on a rabbinical level? That was the original question. Yeah. So now, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Masni Hachi, he taught as follows. Amar b'chibar Abba Bayi Rabbi Yochanan Katan Yesh Lamaisa Ein Lamaisa. The question Rabbi Yochanan had was, can a minor, does his action shows his intent or not? Amar Rabbi Ami v'tibayli Makshava. Why don't you ask about his intent when he verbalizes something? Why only the action? So, because obviously you'll say that the verbalization is for sure not good. Well, then, so why are you asking about an action? The action is also an explicit mission. The Tanan, Yesh and Maisa. So it's just a different version of the same back and forth. So it says the more the question was the action showing us their intent, is that gonna would that work biblically or only rabbinically? And then he answered, Yesh lahem maisa va'afilu midaraisa. If they do an action where we see clearly what their intent is, like bringing, let's say they would bring from the south to the north, and they would say that we're doing this because it's invalid in the south. So they do an action and they verbalize it, then that would have ramifications on a biblical level. So, ein lahem machshava va'afilu midarabanan. Just mere verbalization is not going to have any effect, even on a rabbinic level. Now, machshavto nikeres b'toch ma'asav, where you have an action, but you didn't verbalize it, but it's clear from your actions what you're trying to do. So, let's say when you flip over the fruit, you want the other side to get wet. You didn't say anything, but it's clear what you want. So, there we say, midaraisa ein lo, midarabanan yesh lo. Biblically, it's not going to do anything, but rabbinically, it will. So I heard a practical example of this. We know that when we set aside things, that are muktzah, right? So let's say, this is a muktzah for Shabbos. You set it aside. A lot of things are already set aside. Your phone's already set aside. Let's say certain things you want to set aside. So the question is, a minor, can he do that? Let's say he verbalizes, I want this to be away for Shabbos. I set it aside. Does that verbalization do anything? So the Sefer Shmir Shabbos, what is that? His box of? His basketball shoes, right? Something like that. Yeah, that's your example. That's your example. He wants to keep him for Sunday game or whatever it is. So the Shmir Shabbos also says that him just saying it is not going to do anything. But if he acts upon it, he takes the shoes and puts them away in a corner, puts them in a box, puts them where they go, whatever it is, that would have ramifications in the world of muktzah, based off this Gemara. That the actions will do something and the verbalization will not do something. Bo minei Shmuel me Rav Huna. Shmuel asks Rav Huna, this is, I believe, is the very end. Yeah, the last page of Menachos. Same thing. Bo minei Shmuel me Rav Huna minayin lemes asik bekachim shu pasal. If you just happen to slaughter the animal, you were busy cutting your vegetables, and you happen to slaughter an animal, whatever the case is, you had no intention. How you know that's invalid? Shenamar v'shachat has been a bakar. Shetehei shchitaso l'shem ben bakar. Your shchita has to be for this for the bull, for the young bull. And if you didn't have intent for it, it's going to be invalid. Amar lo zubi adenu. Okay, that's ideal. That we have. That's in our hands. We got that. La'akev minayin. How do you know that if you end up doing it, it's no good? Meaning it's not only ideal, but even after the fact, it's not going to be good. That we say, according to your will, you should slaughter. What it means is with knowledge. With knowledge, you shall slaughter it. I also heard one more interesting thing is that this idea that we mentioned about doing an action, and then from the action we see your intent. So the Gemara's language is originally that by the fruits, a deaf mute and a deranged and a katan, put them up. But one of the comments points out, we're really only referring to a minor. Those three are always grouped together. But a minor that does this, a minor has some level of intent. A totally deranged person has zero level of intent. And they bring up proof that when it's said that they put it up or they flipped it over, it said shlo hipech bahen. Hipech is in the singular. It's only referring to the minor. If it was referring to all three of them, it would say shlo hafchu bahen or something like that. So he differentiates between a katan, a minor, has some level of knowledge, of intent, as opposed to a deaf mute and a deranged. So they happen to be categorized together always. They're put here, but this would not apply to them, only to a katan.